Alright, what's going on guys? So if you haven't heard, Wizards of the Coast has announced the 2019 Challenger decks. Pretty cool. You know I am a fan of those. As an F&M level player, I think they are the best product that Wizards of the Coast has ever released. Pretty great, pretty great. So I just wanted to go over my initial reaction. This isn't going to be like an in-depth guide of the decks or anything. I will do that eventually, just not right now. I just wanted to talk about the decks, how I feel about, you know, what's in them, stuff like that. And a part of the reason I wanted to make this video is because I've seen a lot of sort of contrasting opinions about them. You know, the investment community hates them, naturally, because they're not investable and they tank the prices of the cards that's in them. So, you know, they obviously aren't happy as usual. That's fine. Other people seem to love them. They think they're just as good as last year. I'm not sure if I 100% agree with that. I'll get to that in a minute. But, you know, I don't have any emotional investment here. You know, I don't even have a local gaming store anymore. I'm not playing in paper. I won't be buying one of these just because I can't play with it. So I will try to give you my unemotional, you know, objective opinion about them, hopefully. So first off, the decks are United Assault, Lightning Aggro, Deadly Discovery, and Arcane Tempo, which are basically the white weenie or white aggro deck, the mono red aggro deck, the Sultai mid-range deck but without blues, was the green black mid-range of a few months ago, and then Arcane Tempo is this weird sort of blend between Izzet Drakes and Izzet Phoenix. It can't really be called a Phoenix deck because it only has one Arclight Phoenix, but then it's also not quite a Drake's deck. I don't know, it's kind of weird. So those are the decks: white aggro, red aggro, green black mid-range, and Izzet Drakes, kind of. And if you saw my video that I released a couple weeks ago, 2 to 3 weeks ago, a few weeks ago, the why the 2019 Challenger decks will be worse, I feel like I was right in most of my predictions. I said they'd make either a Boros Aggro or Boros Angels deck, but they would probably remove red, which is what they did. They went with white aggro and removed red. I said they'd do mono red, and they did that. I said they'd do Sultai mid-range but without blue, which they did. And I was a bit off on the last one. I said they would model the deck after the Jeskai control deck, which did run the Drakes and Niv Mizzet, but I said that because there was so much red, they might remove red and bring it down to blue-white. In hindsight, that was kind of silly. Obviously, just going with 8 Drakes would make more sense. So yeah, I wasn't too far off, I don't think. I feel like I was pretty on base there. And I'm happy to say that the decks definitely don't suck. They are definitely super playable right out of the box. I mean, you can crack these open and play them, no problem. They have all the cards they need. The mono white aggro deck is kind of weird because they went with the life gain strategy. It's got like Leonin Johnny's Pride Mates and Leonin Vanguards and stuff like that. It's kind of weird. But yeah, they're doing the life gain variant of the mono white deck. And then the Arcane Tempo deck, like I said, it's just really, really strange. It's like, it's kind of Izzet Drakes, it's kind of Izzet Phoenix. It's also like, they named it Tempo and they added Dive Down, like it's the mono blue Tempo deck, but it's not that either. I don't know. It's this weird blend, but yeah, they're still pretty playable out of the box. Even the Arcane Tempo deck, which I think is the weirdest, I think it's still pretty good. It's still a, you know, it's still a blue-red spells deck with Crackling Drake as a finisher and stuff like that. So yeah, I think it's fine. But one of the big complaints that people have been talking about is that they are much less valuable than last year. Now, obviously, these prices are subject to change, and they almost certainly will drop once this product is released. But currently, at the time of this recording, right at the announcement, I'm recording it the day after the announcement, the United Assault deck is $63, the Lightning Aggro deck is $79, the Deadly Discovery deck is $72, and the Arcane Tempo deck is kind of crazy. It's $122, which is, that's pretty crazy for a deck that they're selling for $30. Overall, these are a lot less valuable than last year's decks, with the exception of the Arcane Tempo deck. I mean, there's a pretty good chance that Arcane Tempo deck just isn't going to be available anywhere. I mean, it's going to sell out. It's either going to sell out everywhere if they're sold at MSRP, or people are going to price gouge them. So yeah, with the exception of that deck, which is really weird, and it's going to be, you know, there's going to be availability issues with that. The remaining 3 decks are all less valuable than every deck released last year. So if we go over last year's decks really quick, Vehicle Rush was $95, Hazard Aggro was $90, Counter Surge was $84, and Second Sun Control was $79. So if we were to sort these decks by price, it looks like this: Arcane Tempo first, then every deck from last year, Vehicle Rush, Hazard Aggro, Counter Surge, and Second Sun Control. And then at the bottom of that list would be the new decks, Lightning Aggro, Deadly Discovery, and United Assault. Yeah, you can see here, the new decks are just definitely worth a lot less, about $20 less on average. But then we have that weird Arcane Tempo deck that's just freaking way up in the middle, like what the, I don't know, it's so weird. $120 all put into that one deck, and then the rest are just worth a lot less. It's really strange. But with the exception of that Arcane Tempo deck again, yeah, we're about $15 to $20 less on average than last year's deck. Now that doesn't necessarily mean that these new decks are bad, it's just that they are less good in terms of value than last year. I would say it's very similar to the last round of Commander decks, which people complained because they were less valuable than usual, but they're still more valuable than their MSRP. And that's what we have here. Even the worst deck in this batch, which is United Assault, which is also the worst value of any Challenger deck ever, at least, you know, there's only been a couple years worth here, but at $63, it's the least valuable Challenger deck that's ever been released, and it's still worth, at least right now, double its MSRP. It's going to be selling for $30, and it's got $63 worth of cards in it. So even though these are less valuable than last year's, they're still well worth the price, without question. I mean, if you want any of these decks, if you want to play Mono Red Aggro, if you want to play, you know, 8 Drakes or Is It Phoenix, buying these decks as a starting point is still well worth it because, you know, they're worth more than you're paying for, and you can still play them straight out of the box at an FNM. So judging by that alone, without question, these are still worth it. Even though they're worth less, they're still worth buying, they're still worth playing with, they're still, you know, perfectly capable of winning an FNM, you know, at a more casual store. So by all means, they're still worth it, even if they're not quite as good as last year. And another thing is that technically these decks actually average to about the same as last year's. So the 2018 decks were worth, as a group, $348 total, or about $87 each on average. That's assuming that you're buying a case, because a case comes with one of each deck. So if you bought a case, you're getting $348 worth of value. This year, you're getting $336, so only $12 difference, and that averages out to about $84 per deck, which is only a $3 difference. So actually, you're getting pretty close to the same value. The bigger issue actually is just that all of that value is concentrated on the one deck, the Arcane Tempo deck. If Wizards of the Coast had taken, you know, like $30 of value out of that Arcane Tempo deck and then distributed it amongst the other decks, then it would actually average out to be about the same. Again, it's only a $12 difference total and a $3 difference average on the decks. But because it's so highly concentrated in that one deck, you have $122 in Arcane Tempo, then you look at United Assault and it's only worth $63. So overall, it does average to be about the same, but that Arcane Tempo deck is either going to be sold above MSRP or it's going to be sold out, like I said, so it's pretty much guaranteed that the majority of people are going to be stuck with the other 3 decks. Not that you're being stuck with it, they're still good decks if you want to play with them, but in terms of value, chances are you're going to be buying one of the other 3 decks, which are less valuable than all of the other decks from last year. So that's the bigger issue, not necessarily the overall value, but the value distribution among the decks. But yeah, if you do buy a case or if you buy all 4 decks, then you'll actually be getting about the same value as last year, give or take, you know, 12 bucks. When you're talking about $330 to $340, you know, that's a negligible amount really. So yeah, at the end of the day, these decks are good. They're playable out of the box, and you're still getting more value than you pay. So if you're looking for a standard deck to play at FNM or Standard Showdown, these are still well worth the purchase. You're still getting at least double the money you spend in value in the decks. So yeah, without question, if you want to play standard and you don't have a standard deck, these are still very, very much worth it. These are fantastic for players. They're fantastic for stores. They're still really, really good. If you're watching this video and you want to play standard, again, buy one without question. Buy any of them. Any of them are fine. Even if you can't get Arcane Tempo, that deck's kind of weird anyway from a playability standpoint. Any of the other 3 decks, even if they're all less valuable than last year's, they're still totally playable. They're still fantastic. I would still highly recommend them, at least for now. We'll see if they continue to trend downwards as the years go by. You know, if next year's are worth, you know, $50 to $60, then, you know, maybe we can start being concerned. But for now, regardless of the future, regardless of whether or not Wizards of the Coast makes these as cheap as possible going forward, at least right now, in 2019, looking at these 4 decks, yes, they are still worth it. And I would still highly recommend them to anyone who wants to play Standard. I sincerely hope Wizards of the Coast doesn't allow this product to decay over time like they do with every other product they release. But for now, still worth it. So yeah, there you go guys. That's all I have to say. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.